Hello and welcome back to One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show. Along with Ryan Gregware, I'm Colin Loughran, and we're thrilled to be joined by seven-time NBA All-Star and Hall of Famer Tracy McGrady. Tracy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
We're doing great. It's great to have you on the show. So you're the founder of a brand new one-on-one hoops league known as One's Basketball League. I've come to understand there's going to be a regional tournament here in Brooklyn this weekend too. Could you talk a bit about how you came up with the concept for a one-on-one league and maybe tell us a bit more about this weekend's event?
Yeah, so One's Basketball League, OBL, came up with the idea back in August. And I just felt like, the information I was getting from my kids, my two sons in my AAU program, just really was telling that I needed to start a one-on-one league and give these guys a platform, because it was just, my kids don't watch NBA. They're 16 and 13. They don't watch NCAA, but they do watch YouTube highlights, the short form content that these guys are watching. And in these highlights, I'm seeing guys play on the playground, and it's 4-on-4 basketball, a lot of energy around the parks. Two guys get to join at one another, and then it turns to one-on-one. And the people around that is watching goes crazy. So I'm like, wow, that's the energy that, I want to create for, my tournaments that I put on for these guys. But I want to find the best of the best. I want to find guys that didn't get the opportunity to play in the NBA, guys that were told that they wasn't good enough. There's a lot of these guys out here that can play at a high level. And I'm talking about one-on-one basketball. Everybody can't play 5-on-5, in systems, right? But you have some guys out here that are talented, like Kyrie Irving's, these James Harden, like these guys are out here. I'm providing that platform for them to be able to showcase their skills. They don't have a coach that is going to put them in a role. They don't have a 7-foot defender back behind, someone's guarding them trying to block their shot. Is me versus you. And I think, basketball is such a global sport. Why not have it one-on-one? Why not find out who the best one-on-one basketball player in the world? We often talk about who's the GOAT, in basketball. LeBron, Michael Jordan, I throw Kobe in there as well. But all three of those guys, we're talking about the GOAT in a 5-on-5 setting, right? Because if I ask you, who's the best player in today's game? Who's the best player in today's game, you think? I'm asking you guys.
Giannis.
Right? So who you got, Colin?
I would have went with Kevin Durant personally.
All right. So we got two different answers. Now I'm going to ask you, who's the best one-on-one player in today's game?
I would take Kyrie.
See, you said a different name, right? So I proved my point exactly, right? 5-on-5. Giannis is probably the best player in today's game right now. One-on-one, you said Kyrie, and you probably think KD will be that guy. That's why I'm creating this. I want to identify who's the greatest one-on-one basketball player in the world.
And I think that's such a fascinating concept. And that was something I wanted to ask you about, the draw of the one-on-one. We've seen the big three come in, but specifically in terms of this one-on-one style, what in your eyes makes it, this captivating component in comparison to, that 5-on-5 game?
Well, I think because you have to be insane. You have to have some insanity to play one-on-one, right? Because again, it's you. It's all on you. You can't blame anybody, right? And I think, that just competitive nature has to come out of you. That spirit comes out of you. To whereas in a 5-on-5 setting, so much you can hide a little bit. You don't have to really, be. You have a role to play, right? So you don't have, some of these guys don't have to be that dynamic player, of which they can be, but they're put in a role. Here, you have to be the best the version of yourself competing against another guy across from you, and that is having the ultimate confidence and ability in your talent.
We've talked about it a little bit. There's so many guys in today's game that have excellent handles. Is there a player in the NBA right now that you think would be really good?
Kyrie.
One-on-one tournament?
Kyrie.
Yeah.
Hands down, Kyrie would be electrifying. Kyrie I guarantee you, hasn't shown you guys his best ability in the NBA. Like what he's doing right now, it's pretty spectacular. But he has so much. If he was playing one-on-one basketball in a one-on-one league, he will show you guys so much more than what he's showing on the NBA platform. I promise you. Because I was that way. It's just things that we held back because of we didn't need to unleash that out of our bag in the NBA. But playing one-on-one, you'll see so many more moves.
Mm-hmm. Now, another component of the OBL is the content partnership with Showtime. I think that's fascinating because basketball, specifically the NBA, is such a narrative-based sport now. So what can we kind of expect to see from that partnership going forward?
Well, really just telling the stories, you know what I mean? And I think that's very important when you create a platform like this. You want people to know about these players and their background. And having Showtime a part of, OBL is really giving them the opportunity to tell their stories on a broader scale. Actually, and talk about, doing a documentary and identifying and really capturing the beginning of the making of a sports league is what we're doing. So I'm so, grateful for this partnership with Showtime, and I think we're going to do amazing things.
We're joined by Tracy McGrady, founder of One's Basketball League. Tracy, and talking about story and how it's really important for growth of a sport overall. I know the first couple of years of OBL will only feature men, but women will be joining as soon as 2023. I'm wondering, do you think the inclusion of women will help put more of a spotlight on women's sports overall?
I sure would hope so. We definitely want to include the women for next season. I mean, there's a lot of talented women out here. Again, just like the men. And I think, having this platform, giving them that opportunity, I hope it'll shed light on them and also shed light on other women's sports, especially the WNBA. These girls are so talented. They don't need to go across seas, just to make ends meet and make good money playing basketball. They should stay right here in the United States, making good money, preparing themselves for an upcoming season every year and be able to have an off season to rest their bodies instead of going across seas to play basketball.
I want to shift now to your career a bit, and I'm sure you've been asked this a lot, but I have to do it. It's the 13 points in 33 seconds, probably the most improbable moment of your career, I'd assume. Just wondering if you could walk us through that. What was going through your head? Were you just feeling on a different level? Like, what was that kind of experience like?
It was, I think when you work your butt off in the off season, when you put that type of work in, that was the manifestation of the work, right? I didn't know I was going to do something like that, but I put the work in the off season. So me scoring 13 points in 35 seconds was just an, indication of me putting in the work and feeling confident, preparing myself for those type of situations. Having the will to take over a game when your team is down and not giving up. It was an incredible moment. And it was just, me just having that will, bro. Like, I refuse to lose.
That mentality really important come playoff time, given that we're headed into the NBA finals and we've had a playoffs that's been really great all around. I have to ask you, Tracy, do you have a favorite playoff moment from your career?
I do not, man. I don't. I hate talking about my playoff career because it was, I not once when I entered a season that I was on a championship team, and playing 15 years and not, having that opportunity to win a championship. To me, it was just, it was. There's nothing I could do about that because I don't make the decisions, in terms of, the talent that is put around me. But, for what I was able to accomplish individually and to lead a team to the playoffs, what I had surrounded around me, I mean, I don't even like talking about it because there was so much I could have given. But when you talk about the Orlando team, not having a healthy Grant Hill, I mean, it's, what if he was healthy? How good we could have been. I took a number one seed without Grant Hill to 7 games and we were up 3-1. Like, what I'm saying? So And then, when we finally in Houston got some talent around us, got the piece that I felt like we were a championship contending team, my knee blew out on me. And that's when we added Ron Artest to the team with myself, Yao Ming, Shane Battier, Rayford Austin. Like, we had a really good team. We added him, but I was done.
And from that point, something I wasn't really aware of, honestly, before I started looking into it, was your baseball career. Could you maybe, talk about that? Did you play growing up? Was that something you just decided after to transition to? What was baseball for you?
Well, I don't know if it was a career. It was like a cup of coffee and a muffin that I had for my baseball career. No, baseball is my favorite sport. I always wanted to play, professional baseball. Even when I got drafted, I was trying to figure out which summer can I go and have a tryout, or even just go to spring training with somebody and participate in that. But I never really got around to it. So when I retired from basketball, we have a independent league right up the street from my house, which is called the Sugarland Skeeters. I think they recently have changed their names to the Space Cowboys. But I saw Roger Clemens play for them. So I was like, oh, maybe, I can go out there, give it a shot, give it a trial, and possibly, play for these guys. So went out there, tried out. They gave me the opportunity. I made the team, played about 75 games and made it to the All-Star game, pitched in the All-Star game a few innings, struck someone out, walked off, and my baseball career was over with. Like, I had to, check that off of my bucket list because, like I said, it was my favorite sport, and I still love it to this day. And I am actually playing in a 40 and up league as we speak.
What's the pitch arsenal look like?
Back then, I was throwing a fastball, curveball, slider, and a changeup. Now in my league today, I'm just throwing a fastball and changeup. I don't want to tear my arm up.
Oof, switching sports, that's pretty impressive. Not sure even some of the best athletes right now in the NBA could do that. I do want to ask a question about hoops, given, last night Warriors advanced to the NBA Finals. This is their 6th appearance in the last 8 years. Where do you rank them all time in terms of dynasties? We've seen great ones before, like Chicago, Celtics in the 60s. Lakers had a similar deal in the 80s. Where do the Warriors rank in terms of all-time discussions in your mind?
I don't know, because their team has changed over those years. When you talk about those teams, they added, pieces here and there, but not stars to their team. The Warriors added a superstar to their team for 2 years to win a championship. So, are they in the conversation? Yes, but you got to look at the dynamic of how they, built their team. Adding KD was, come on, man. You add KD to what they already had, a 73 win team. Like, yeah, I put that team in the conversation, but this team right now, if they win a championship, they still have some more to go.
Do you think it's more impressive what they're doing now, coming off those 2 really bad years? I think they went 15 and 50 that short year, something like that. Do you think it's more impressive coming back, or is it just them getting healthy?
No, it's just a matter of them getting healthy. I said last year, if Klay Thompson was to be healthy this year, they were going to win a championship. I don't think they're going to win. I think Boston is actually going to win. I just think Boston, with their 2 dynamic players, Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and the defense that I think they're capable of playing on Steph, I think Boston will win this series. But I'm not surprised that Golden State is back in the finals.
Trey, so we have one more question for you. Having a discussion about modern NBA and how dynasties are able to be shaped a little bit differently than they might have been in previous years. How has the game changed on the court since your playing days in terms of spacing, offense? Just what to you is the biggest change that's occurred?
Spacing is the biggest change. And you look at when I played, you had 2 big men that was out there. It was very little spacing. I look at the possessions that these guys have now. It's a lot more possessions, but more so just that spacing, man. And that's why, I look at somebody like Giannis, right, who's not a consistent jump shooter, but because he's surrounded by all those shooters, he could get downhill and get to the basket. But in that era, when we're playing with two other big men, where the paint is congested, and you don't have four shooters on a basketball court with you, like that, you had to have a deep bag. You had to be a consistent jump shooter from the perimeter to be really good in that era. But man, the spacing that these guys have today is tailor-made for an offensive player to go out and get buckets.
Tracy, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Everyone, be sure to check out OBL's New York Regional Tournament this weekend in Brooklyn's Major R. Owens Community Center. Stay tuned to One on One, New York's longest running sports call-in show.